Indie Author Lab from the Alliance of Independent Authors is a brand new in-person event for indie authors during London Book Fair Week. Taking place in London on March 11, 2026, it's a full day of mentoring, workshops, and community connection. Created for indie authors by indie authors. Learn more and secure your tickets at selfpublishingadvice.org/indieauthorlab. Welcome to Self-Publishing with ALLi from the Alliance of Independent Authors. This week, Anna Featherstone discusses production and distribution, guiding indie authors through the many ways to create, publish, and distribute their books. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Gatekeeper Press, your partner in independent publishing, empowering authors with expert guidance, 100% rights, 100% royalties, global distribution, and all-inclusive services, from editing to marketing. Gatekeeper Press, where authors are family. And now, here's your host, Anna Featherstone.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning in from your special part of this beautiful planet. I'm Anna Featherstone, joining you today from the unceded lands of the Biripi people, the original storytellers of this land, a coastal area on the mid-north coast of New South Wales in Australia, where the sea life, giant goannas, koalas, native bees, and birds would have you thinking you're in a fairy tale. But today, we're not in a fairy tale. We're diving into reality of something that every author and publisher needs to understand, and that's about distribution and visibility for your book. And even if it sounds a bit dry and a bit techy, that whole world metadata, it's so important. And we talk about it a fair bit at ALLi because of that. So think of it as like the digital DNA of your book. It's like all the key information that helps people, systems, and booksellers find, understand, and sell your book. And we have the person today who can help us make all sense of that. We're joined by Abbey Clark, Account Manager for Metadata at NielsenIQ BookData Australia. Welcome, Abbey.
Thanks for having me, Anna. Hi, everyone.
You're like the author's friend. We're very lucky to have you with us. So you work at like the heart of book discovery. So you help publishers and authors ensure our data is accurate and complete and kind of powerful enough to travel through the global book ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the basics, Abbey. What is it exactly? What is metadata, and why does it matter so much?
Okay, so you're absolutely right. It's your book's DNA. It's the building blocks of how you would get your book out there, talk about it. So it's all the information that's used to create and describe and range and promote and sell your book. It's then used by publishers, distributors, libraries, all of our book people friends in search engines, and eventually readers. So, actually, yeah.
That makes me wonder, when did all this book data-y, metadata-y stuff begin?
Oh, good heavens. Well, long before my time, I can tell you that. It's been going on for a really long time. So before computers and spreadsheets and all the sort of zeros and ones, it all started back in physical catalogues. Retailers used to get from publishers, and they used to look up each of the books that were available, and they were done it was like almost like the white pages or the yellow pages, if anyone remembers that. I may be aging.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been around for a really long time. We just do it slightly differently, like we do with everything else. So
okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much metadata.
Yeah. So a lot of authors just think, there's just a metadata thing that I've got to fill in on a publishing platform. They just, kind of glaze over. What's the bigger picture?
Okay, so the bigger picture there is, think about it this way. How do you tell someone about your book without any of the details? So how would you tell them what the title, like what is it called? How much is it? Where do I purchase it? What is it about? Without those key important things, how would you then tell a friend? How would you then sell it to an audience? Like it's not just another little tick box that you've got to do at the end of the day. It's your best sales rep. It tells everyone what they need to know about your book. So It can be as simple as, where do I even purchase a copy? Like, you've got to think about it that way. So that metadata goes across retailers, it goes into library catalogs, it goes into search engines and retailers both online and offline. The other big thing to remember about metadata is it also allows for market measurement. So that gives authors and publishers of all different shapes and sizes all the information that they need to make informed choices, to see what the trends are, where something's going, where something's maybe slowing down a little bit. It's not just, again, like I said, another tick box that you have to do at the end of the day, another chore. It's really intrinsic to how you would then sell on.
Yeah. So at the other side of metadata, so there's us, we authors and publishers. On the other side is like, why would a bookseller look up stuff? Like, why is someone actively looking for new entries? How did they use it on the other side?
So how they would use it on the other side obviously depends on, who they are. So a retailer might use metadata completely differently to how a library would use it. But they would use it essentially for their own customers. So they might have, a library might have one regular client that comes in all the time, only looks for gardening books for Australian natives, and you've just published one. If your metadata's in that library catalogue, then, and they see it as a new entry, they can say, oh, hang on a minute, we've got a new one. And it's a discoverability tool at the end of the day. So it leads people to your book. It's a bit like the best kind of a Where's Wally. So, yeah. And a retailer is the same. So they might have somebody coming in and they're looking for a gift for someone. And this gift might be for a 12-year-old boy who is obsessed with astronauts. And you've just written this really well-researched, beautifully written, gorgeously illustrated book that is all about space and astronauts and maybe the Australian space race for that particular age group. And the retailer might look it up on the database and say, hey, there's a new one, and lead them directly to that book, and there's a sale. So
is there like a new tag, and like how long does that last on a book?
Well, new books can be usually in that first year. So you're sort of your 12 months is usually new. But then you've also got pre-publication. So pre-publication is almost as important. So that's where you do all of your marketing strategies and, push out your information so people know that it's coming. And it builds that excitement, because then someone will say, okay, this book is out on this date. I'm so excited for it. I'm going to pre-order it, and it's going to either be sent to me, or I can go into my local bookshop and pick it up. And it's almost as important as that new. So there's forthcoming and then there's new.
Yeah.
And then you go into backlist. Don't forget backlist. Backlist is also important. Just because your book's been out for over 12 months does not mean that it's not important.
Yeah. And we'll talk, I think, a little bit later about how we update those. So tell us what role NielsenIQ BookData plays in the book industry globally.
Okay. Oh, how long have we got? Okay. So we're at the heart of the industry. So we collect metadata for English language, mainly English language books from over 60,000 publishers worldwide. It's not just publishers, it's also suppliers, it's also self-published authors, and we have a database with just over 54 million records. We've only just ticked over 54 million records, and that's been going for, oh goodness, I can't even think, honestly. It's been going on for such a long time. And we've been around for a really long time. And we connect with, again, libraries, retailers, search engines, pretty much anybody and everybody within the book supply chain.
Okay, so that's like obviously a huge global footprint right in the back end of all the systems.
Yep.
So once someone like enters a record or update it, how long does it take to actually go through that system and get out there?
Yeah, so when we receive either the addition of your metadata or an update to your metadata into our systems via either, if you have a publisher that you work with or a supplier that you work with, from them or from yourself, it then goes through our back-end systems, goes through all the checks and balances, usually over a 24 to 48 hour period. And then from there, it immediately goes out. So then it goes through all of the zeros and ones and all the different systems for everyone, and then it's disseminated.
And often some of us jump the gun, not speaking about myself, but let's just say I've jumped the gun a bit and I've done my metadata, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to change this. Like, is there any limit to how many times we can go in and update our entries?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
The thing about a record is it's not static. Like any book, it's not static. It's completely dynamic. So there will be, and I think we'll talk about this a bit later, you always want to keep on top of it and you always want to be fresh. So if someone can see that a book's been around for 5 years and it hasn't been updated since the day that the metadata was put in, it's not telling me all the information that I need to know right now. It's telling me the information that I needed to know 5 years ago. So it's actually really important to remember that it's always changing. It might not change super frequently, but if you've just put in your data and you go, oh, hang on a minute, I need to go in and update it, just go in and update it. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when should we first complete our metadata? So when we do our ISBN registration or before we upload our book to like an Ingram Spark, or do we do it once the book is completely finished? How early is too early?
Okay. So have your metadata ready to go as soon as you can, because then as soon as you've purchased your ISBN, you've got that metadata ready to your hands. You're not sort of running around like a headless chook going, what was this about? What did I want to put in here? And all that sort of thing, because you've got 1,000 things on your mind. You might as well do it as you go. And again, you can change it at any point. So if you decide that 3 months after you publish the book, you decide, I don't think that classification works for me, or I need to change the price or whatever, you can change it. That's fine. But obviously take your time and do it right the first time. And just have your metadata ready to go as soon as you can.
Yeah, because I often find like with my own books, like I have no idea what the page count is actually going to be at publication, because I might not have done my index yet, or I might not know, the exact width it's going to be and all those things. So I can basically fill in my major descriptions and all those things and just come back and say, well, it's actually 360 pages, not 342.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if as long as you've got the basics down, like obviously your ISBN, your title, your author, and maybe just a basic description, you can just put that in a file or wherever you happen to be taking your notes, and then add as you go along. As I said, it's dynamic. You can add and update as much as you please.
So the interplay, this is like something I always get confused, the interplay, because and I know this is a global podcast, so different authors around the world use different ways to get their ISBNs. We all go through different systems. And then when we're doing that, we're also asked to fill out metadata there, but that's not you guys per se. So we have to fill it out there. We need to fill it out with you. And then we also then might fill it out with Ingram Spark and other places. So what's your, I suppose, advice around that about, do we do them all about the same time? Do we, keep it all the same? Like what happens if we have something different? Yeah.
So what I would advise is maybe just keep a record. It can be however you best keep your records. If you prefer to write things down, write them down. If you prefer to put them in a spreadsheet in your phone app, wherever you wish, and what works best with you and your processes. And then once you have all the metadata there, so say your core fields, then do it one at a time, but together, because then you can keep everything consistent. And then if you need to make little tweaks for regionality, so it might be you might want something slightly different, like spelling if you're going into the US, or it might be a pricing change for New Zealand or wherever, then you can make those little notes as you go and then update your your notes as you go. So you've got a record there. I mean,
and then like copy and paste.
Yeah, and then copy and paste
from that into all the different
because then consistency is key. Because if you're looking up a book on, I don't know, whatever search engine you feel is necessary to use, then you can see the consistency across. It might just be the search engine itself. It might be an image search. It might be a retailer's website. It might be your own website. It might be, wherever your metadata has gone, you want to see that consistency because your readers want to see the consistency because they might not all go to the same place. And you want, no matter where they go, to see that same information, with the exception of regionality, things like price and availability and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. And then so with that, are there separate fields to fill in those different country details?
Yeah. So I imagine, I can only speak for NielsenIQ, but obviously with pricing, there would be a different price in Australia versus New Zealand versus South Africa versus the UK. So obviously those would be slightly different. But yeah, I would say most things would probably stay the same. So your title would probably stay the same unless you decide to have a slightly different title for, say, the Commonwealth versus the US, because the language is different. So you might,
and then you might actually use two different ISBNs for a like for a different version.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe, if it was different.
Yeah, so it's actually quite common to have. There might be a US rights edition, and there might be a UK rights edition, or a Commonwealth rights edition. So there'll be two completely separate ISBNs. They won't be the same because they're completely different rights markets. So, for example, I hate to use the example, but Harry Potter and it's the Philosopher's Stone in the UK, but in the US, it's the Sorcerer's Stone. So you would have different titles for different markets because Sorcerer's works better in the US and Philosopher's works better in the UK, just because of the way we speak and that regionality. So, and you would have two separate ISBNs because they're technically two separate publishers. So always have a different ISBN, and I'll probably bang on about this a little bit later, but a new ISBN, even across formats. So if you've got one book and you're doing a paperback and an ebook, and you might be doing an audio and you might be doing a hardback or whatever, each individual format should have a different ISBN. And it's to track where maybe your sales are going. So you might have higher sales in ebook, you might have a couple of different, you might notice some new sales in audio, but it's also about the end user as well. Because you're thinking, if you're looking for a book on a bookshelf and both the hardback and the paperback and the ebook and the audio and all the other different formats have the same ISBN, and you can't actually physically touch that book to have a look, how do you know which one you're getting? It's an individual thing. Yeah. So that's really important.
Yeah. So what are the core metadata fields we should focus on getting right from the very start?
Yeah, absolutely. The list is long, but it's and it's a lot to think about, but these are your cores. These are the base of your pyramid, your metadata pyramid. So you'll obviously have your ISBN, your title, your author, or contributor if you wish to call that. You can also put in an editor if it's like a short story compilation of a whole different bunch of authors, you can put in an editor. If it's audio, you can put in your narrator or narrators. That's really important. Obviously, put in your format, your imprint or publisher, sales rights, so where you're allowed to sell that book, your product properties, so like your weights and dimensions. How tall is the book? How wide is it? How many pages has it got? How heavy is it? It might not seem important, but it really is. Obviously, your price and availability, where your book is being distributed. So if you're a self-published author and you're the one that is selling your books, you would put yourself in as distributor. You would also put in series information if it's part of a series, because you want people to be able to find, if this is book 4, you want them to find book 1 if they haven't started the series. An edition number if you have multiple editions. You might also put in an audience code and your classification codes. So those are your core fields. Again, I know it's a lot.
Yeah. What is an audience code?
So an audience code is what your audience for this book should be. So if it's a general audience code, it means anyone from the age of 0, if you can read at 0, all the way through to 843. So if you live that
all
long,
those longevity bros.
all the longevity bros. So that's a general audience code. If it's just for adults, so you're 18 plus, you would put in an adult audience code. If it's for kids, you would put in a kids audience code.
And do you have the code, like a drop-down menu?
Yeah, so it's in our title editor program. Right. So Title Editor, just to give a bit of context, is our free publisher portal. I'm sure some of the listeners know of Title Editor, but for those that don't, as I said, it's a free publisher portal. You register and you can add all of your metadata into Title Editor, and then we upload that to data feeds and into our database so people can discover your book there. And all of that information is there. But if you do get stuck, feel free to get in contact with one of us. We're happy to help.
Okay. Oh, I'd be careful about saying that.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, at the end of the day, you want to do it right.
Yeah, I think I found with Title Editor, like the process of signing up, it felt a bit like old-fashioned or something. Like it wasn't super intuitive. And then I think I had to email for some more, like, can you help with this? Mm-hmm. But I did get help. Like people did come back and help me back with a password. Maybe I hadn't logged in for some time, or I can't remember, but I just remember going, oh, that was like it was a little bit daunting. Yeah. But it works. So you just, listeners, you got to stick with it
as best you can. And if you do truly get stuck, send us an email and we'll help you as best we can.
What is the URL for Nielsen Title Editor?
It is, let me just double check.
And we'll pop it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, of course. So I'll obviously put it in it's www.nielsentitleeditor.com. And we'll obviously put it in the show notes.
Yeah, great. Because that's really the starting point, isn't it? That's where people need to go to set up. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so which fields have the biggest impact on discoverability?
The dynamic ones. These are my favorite ones. So we actually did a white paper in 2021, our UK colleagues did. And we actually looked at the correlation between completeness of a record and then sales. So this particular report and other ones that we've done in previous years, it always points towards the relationship between a strong product record that includes descriptive content. So things like an author biography. You might not necessarily think of putting in an author biography, but just a little one, just so people get to know you. And then you've got long and short descriptions, images, and keywords. Oh, I love a good keyword. So those records with those fields completed have higher than average sales than those who don't. So other helpful fields, table of contents. If you've written a nonfiction, table of contents is really important so people get a bit of an idea of, what sort of subjects you're going to be covering. And reviews. If you have a review from a reputable source, put them in. It shows people that others have read the book and they recommend it. And that's another discoverability tool.
That's something we should be going back in and updating.
Absolutely.
So as even like 3 years later, if you get another great review, pop it back in.
Pop it in the review field. Yeah, absolutely.
All these things I'm going to have to do eventually.
And it does take time. Like it will take time, but it's so worth it in the end. Because if people see those things, like an author biography, if someone wants to support a local author, but they don't know, it doesn't have to be specific, but they don't know where you are, why would they support you? But if they know you're Australian, why not?
Or Canadian, or UK,
or South
the
African.
Americans.
Yeah, wherever you happen to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, I live on XYZ Street in the middle of Geelong. Like it could be, I live in Southern Victoria, or I live in Southeast Queensland, or wherever or just say Queensland or Australia. You don't have to give us details, but just so your readers know where you are, and they'll support a local author if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. What about like sometimes, like on socials, or like people just like really stuff keywords. So is there any drawback from doing something like that?
Yes, there is.
Or do we try and get in as many as we can? Like,
well, there's no right
what should
number.
we be doing?
It's all about getting it right. And okay, maybe not stuffing, but I mean,
I suppose it's context, isn't it?
It's context. Yeah, that's right. So if you have 5 really well thought out, not perfect, nothing's perfect, but perfect keywords, that's going to be so much better than 50 random words that you've just found lying around the place that may or may not have anything to do with your book, just so you can just have them in there. So sometimes less is more. But at the same time, there are not rules, but guidelines around using keywords. So I always like to think like your reader. So if you're thinking, what problem do I have that needs to be solved by a book that I need to purchase? Or what am I trying to solve? Or what search terms, if I was looking for my book, what search terms would I put into a search engine or into a library catalog or a retailer's website, or even just walking into a retailer and saying, I'm after this kind of book? What kind of questions would I ask? So, for example, if I've just written a cozy fantasy and it's about a female witch who lives in this great little cottage. She's got her own little garden. She does pickling vegetables, and she's got a squirrel detective friend, and they go around the village and surrounds and solve mysteries. How would I ask for that from someone else? So for keywords, I would put in cozy fantasy. I would put in squirrel because there's a squirrel character in there. I might put in cottage garden because she's got one. So be specific. Some other little tidbits is maybe don't put in current or latest or bestseller. Bestseller is really important because unless you can back it up, don't put it in there. But things like latest and current, it actually ages your book, because by the time someone looks at it in 3, 4, a decade down the track, it's no longer current or latest. So you've kind of just aged it a little bit. The other thing is don't swear. Please don't swear.
Damn it. Why not?
I know. It's really hard as Australians sometimes to just not. The other thing is...
And is that because... why is that?
Well, I mean...
Does it get blotted out at the other end somehow, or people do filters on it?
There's the possibility of that. It could be... I mean, unless that's what your book is about, in which case... do what you have to, but...
The dictionary of swearing.
Yeah, dictionary of swearing. I mean, you're also putting that metadata out into the world, so you need to think about who's going to be reading that at the end of the day. So maybe just give them some of the safer ones, but maybe not some of the more harsh ones that you're keeping for inside the book. Another thing is don't put in website URLs.
Okay.
Because if that URL breaks at any point, people then can't go to the URL anyway. So probably not something that I would put in.
And do you guys do any adjusting? Like, do you rate some books down?
No.
Or, okay.
No. What you put in and what you send to us, either as an addition or an update or anything that you do with your metadata, we do not change it at all. If something needs to be changed and something's flagged with us, we will ask you to change it, because it's not our purview to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So when are like ideal times to go back in and update our metadata?
Personally, I would just go in every couple of months, or twice a year or once a year or whenever works with your schedule. Like everyone's really busy, but if you've got 5 minutes in a day and you think, you know what, I can see my sales are slowing, haven't had one in a while, I might go in and I might just quickly check my price, my availability, my publishing status, and I might check my keywords and just make sure that they're working for me, because that's their job. Their job is to supplement classification codes, and they're also selling your book out in the world. So if they're not doing their job, maybe go in and have a look and update them, keep them fresh.
Yeah, and like if you win an award, you'd pop that in.
Absolutely.
Any new reviews. And I was just thinking too, like every year, there's new words that actually come out.
Yeah.
So like AI slop and, all those words that win like word of the year. And so maybe sometimes if your book is kind of about that, it might be worth introducing new words.
Because the way we talk it changes all the time. So language is constantly updating. So your language needs to constantly update with it.
And the framing. So books that were written like pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, they might need adjustment.
Yeah, or certain
and in the pandemic, because things go out of fashion and things change how we look at things.
Yeah, so it might be a topic. Your book might be from a decade ago and it might be about a topic that was very taboo back then, but now it's quite open and acceptable in society to speak about that. So you might change up the language to reflect how society now talks about that particular topic. Because if you keep it the way that we talked about it 10 years ago, it's not going to help you in the long run. Your book might be the best book that's ever been written on that subject. But if your keywords in your description aren't reflecting how wonderful your book is, then it's not gonna resonate with the readers of today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know like there's a huge difference between people with a few books and then there's people with scores of books. So it's a much bigger job to do and to coordinate for those authors. But for every author, it is definitely worth relooking. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm talking to myself right here. Anna, get back in and update your metadata, girl. Okay. So besides Nielsen, so we talked where people buy the ISBN originally, updating their Ingram Spark, Amazon, KDP. Are there other places that are depositories or repositories of metadata that we should look at updating?
Obviously.
Besides, you guys, of course.
Obviously us. Think about your website shop. If you have a shop on your website where people can purchase directly from you, that's a really important one to update as well, because that's also a retailer. You have to think of yourself as a retailer for your own book. So if you've got 5 different places that you've placed your metadata, update all of them. And make sure that you've got that metadata consistent across all of them. Essentially, anywhere you put your metadata, that's the best places to update them. Because if you've got one over here that's got the latest, and you've got one over there that was from pre-publication, that's not going to help you. People are going to be very confused.
Yes.
So they're not the same book.
Yeah, exactly. So we've now got AI, right, on the scene. So what is NielsenIQ BookData developing anything in that area or anything that would support indie authors, or how is that whole scene evolving?
So AI tools are being used within metadata practices, not necessarily by us, but they are being used generally speaking to save time when creating metadata.
So like an author, we drop our book into a program that then comes back to us with suggestions.
And spits out all of the metadata.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does save you time, but at the end of the day, it can create more issues than before you put it into the AI tool. And that's just because we have best practices, we have different standards, and sometimes the AI is just not up to scratch with those standards and can become unusable. So, and it
too wordy or too...
It just doesn't... It's so hard to explain, but it still needs to be sense checked at the end of the day. So, because it can say, this metadata field and this metadata field and this metadata field, and that's, that's great. It's just saved you 20 minutes, but it could be completely wrong because it's put the wrong thing into the wrong field, or it just doesn't meld well with what you've been doing. So you're the best person to deal with your metadata because it's yours. And as we said at the top of the podcast, or you said at the top of the podcast, it's your book's DNA. It's the building blocks of what makes it, short of the actual amazing writing that all of you do. It may save you time, and I understand that everyone is very, very, time poor at the moment. We've all got so much going on, but spend that little bit of extra time.
Yeah, so just you can use it as like a tool to help a bit, but
Yeah,
you
so
really
if you need to write a description, pop in what your book is about and tell it, what's 3 sentences to write up a short description, and it can help you. It's there to assist, but not to write all of your metadata all at once.
Yeah. Okay. And I know that your company has, we talked about proven that the more metadata you have filled in, the better the book sales seem to be.
Yep.
So including images in that, like is there just room for the front cover?
Yes. So best practice would be just the front cover. We don't want to see any hands holding up the book.
No hands.
No hands. Like don't hold up the book. We just need an image of the front cover. If you've got sprayed edges, that's fine to just slightly twist it a little bit just to show that it's got sprayed edges. But honestly, your best practice would just be the front cover and put into the description that there is sprayed edges. Or if there's something special about your book, put it into the description. That is the best place for it.
Okay. And if authors, after listening to this, take one step to improve their metadata, what would it be?
Jump onto wherever you've put your metadata and review. Just because, and I think I've said it a billion times, so apologies if I have, but your data works for you. It's working for you, and it should be working as hard, if not harder, than you did writing that book. Because you want your book out in the world. You want your readers to find it. So if your metadata isn't connecting with your readers, you need to make sure that it does.
And have you actually read a book because you saw some metadata and thought, that sounds amazing?
Absolutely, I have.
What do you like to read?
Oh, I love to read. I'm a big fantasy reader. I'm a big romance reader, so that obviously comes into romantasy as well.
Yep.
Young adult, I love to read young adult. Picture books, I love picture books. I don't know how everyone does picture books. Yeah. How they manage to write such beautiful stories with so few words and with such gorgeous illustrations is beyond my comprehension. But my main thing is fantasy and romance.
Yeah.
Although I will read Matthew Riley. My husband got me into Matthew Riley. It's totally his fault. But I love that too.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? Like with the children's books, and picture books, their metadata's probably got so many more words than the actual book.
Yep. But that's great though. So with kids, you've got classification codes. I mentioned those earlier as a core data field.
Yeah.
You can put in classification codes that tell people exactly what's in it. So if your book you'd start off with your base code, and then you would have supplementary codes. So you would have your base code as children's, whatever it happens to be. And let's talk about the space book again. So it's a kid's book about space. And then you might put in codes for astronauts and planets and other things that sort of are around that core code. And then you can put in qualifiers. So you can say, like the age range, so the interest age of that particular book. You can tell us if it's about the Australian Space Agency. You could put in Australia as a region qualifier. You can also put things in about accessibility. So if you've got dyslexia type in the book, you can put that in there as a qualifier, as well as in the description, so people can see it, and it makes it more accessible for those with dyslexia to then go ahead and read your book, because they're the target audience. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point, like for people to add in that into their metadata if their books are accessible. And hopefully more and more people, we've done some podcasts about accessibility as well, that people are really, learning about how to produce books that are accessible.
And why wouldn't you tell people about it?
Yeah, totally.
The more people reading, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. For all of us.
For all of us.
Yeah. So any last tips, Abbey?
Oh, last tips.
Those, you've given us some pretty good ones.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
I'm feeling like what I heard is let's just stop listening to this podcast shortly and go and actually do it.
Like, yes, once we finish with the podcast, metadata. Then you can go and do it.
Yeah.
Take notes and then go and do it.
I'm feeling that strongly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's no, you can't over-optimize your metadata. Unfortunately, it's very underutilized.
Yeah.
Because I think there is that mindset that you mentioned earlier there. It's just sort of a set and forget. Once it's done, it's done. I don't ever have to look at it again. But if your book is your baby, you've spent so long writing it and working with a cover artist, or unless you're the cover artist, in which case, all hats off to you. Yeah. I can't draw to save my life. You've done all of this work. Why wouldn't you want to scream about it to the world and tell your audience all about it so they can jump in and read it and then scream about it to all of their friends? Because that's what I do. If as a reader, as a personal thing, as a reader, I have a really great group of friends who, if I read something incredible, whether it's from a self-published author, and I have quite a few self-published authors that are auto buys for me.
Yeah, because we're awesome.
Yeah, of course. But if I read something, I will tell every man and his dog within a 20K radius that they have to go out and read it. Because that's, I mean, I'm a reader from...
It's your thing.
It's my thing. It's my thing. It's one of the questions you cannot ask me at a party, because I'll have your ear for the rest of the evening. But I will go out and tell my friends. And then if my friends read it and they love it, they'll go and tell. So it's also the word of mouth. But then if they can't find you, they're not going to purchase it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've got to go do. So before we wrap up, Abbey, for people wanting to learn more or get started on their metadata, where can they find out more about NielsenIQ, BookData, and the resources you offer?
Yep. So you can find
us.
And
Nielsen title it.
You can find us at nielseniq.com/bookdata, or get in touch via infobookdata@nielseniq.com with any specific questions that you have. Obviously, we'll put them in the show notes, I suppose. We're also on LinkedIn for regular newsletters and blog posts. We're on Instagram at Nielsen Book. And we also have a monthly podcast called The Bestseller Podcast, hosted by my UK colleagues, Phil and Belle. I talk about all sorts of things, bestsellers, trends, and all sorts of other bookish fun. We also have our sales measurement service, which is NielsenIQ Book Scan. So we collect point of sale data from over 1,500 outlets in Australia and over 300 in New Zealand. And then we measure the market.
Plus all around the world.
As well as all around the world.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. And you can then use that sales data to inform decisions around the life cycle of your book and maximize sales so you don't get any sort of surprises. And we have a huge range of options available for authors and publishers. So I'll also include our Info Book Scan AUS at nielseniq.com and Info Book NZ at nielseniq.com for our New Zealand listeners.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Abbey. You've encouraged me to go back in, because I know I should have done it a long time ago. I need to update everything, and it can really help us amplify our reach. So we really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
So thank you, Abbey. Yes. And thank you to everyone out there for being a part of this creative, curious, entrepreneurial, and caring ALLi podcast family. I'm Anna Featherstone. Here's to reading your words someday, and catch you next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with ALLi with Anna Featherstone. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Gatekeeper Press, your partner in independent publishing, empowering authors with expert guidance, 100% rights, 100% royalties, global distribution, and all-inclusive services, from editing to marketing. Gatekeeper Press, where authors are family. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our organization and become a self-publishing ally. You can do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.